Welcome to the Dire Wolf Show, where we believe that America is exceptional and that our constitutional rights should never be infringed. I am Dire Wolf. On our show, we bring you the truth and debunk fake news. If you love laughing at the insanity of the regressive left, sit back and relax. Boy, do I have a show for you.
What's happened and just for
Welcome back, Wolfpack. Dire Wolf here for a special, not the State of the Union, not a joint,
and not a lie this time.
not a lie this time. Thank you. When Fox told me that this was happening, this briefing from Biden, I told him I didn't believe him.
Yeah. For those of you that closely follow the channel, you'll know that a couple of weeks ago, I thought that the State of the Union was one particular night, and we got all ready. We made a graphic. Everybody got drinks. We're ready to go, and that just never happened because I'm apparently an insane person. And then I thought it'd be funny on Monday. I was like, "Hey, Dyer, the State of the Union's tomorrow," and he's like, "I don't believe you." and then on Tuesday, I found out not the State of the Union, but like whatever the fuck this is gonna be. I found out like this was actually gonna be on Thursday, and I'm like, Dyer, the State of the Union's on Thursday, and he's like, stop, and I'm like, no, I'm not joking this time, and he's like, I don't believe you. It's like every time I cry wolf, and he's just like, stop, I don't believe you anymore.
Stop crying me. I think the
right
direct
back
quote
while
was,
you talk to the audience, so I'm gonna go turn off. Oh wait, never mind. The remote worked. I don't have to go anywhere.
good. I think my direct quote was, fuck you the second time.
Yes.
Anyways, so this is not the State of the Union. It is
An address to the nation. Oh,
it's not an address to the two houses of Congress either.
Yes.
But here comes Biden. He is doing this on the day, the first day of the reunion of the
15 days to slow the spread.
Yes, the start of the lockdown. This is the first day from last year. 1 year later, still locked down.
Yeah. All right, let's see what he's got to say.
Good evening, my fellow Americans. Tonight, I'd like to talk to you about where we are as we mark 1 year since everything stopped because of this pandemic. A year ago, we were hit with a virus that was met with silence and spread unchecked. Denials for days, weeks, then months.
Yes, it was the Democrats.
That led to more deaths, more infections,
denied it?
more stress, and more loneliness. Photos and videos from 2019 feel like they were taken in another era. The last vacation, the last birthday with friends, the last holiday with extended family. While it was different for everyone, we all lost something.
Democrat states.
A collective suffering, a collective sacrifice. A year filled with the loss of life and the loss of living for all of us.
Like elderly people in
But in the loss,
in New York,
we saw how much there was to gain in appreciation, respect, and gratitude. Finding light in the darkness is a very American thing to do. In fact, it may be the most American thing we do. And that's what we've done. We've seen frontline and essential workers risking their lives, sometimes losing them, to save and help others. Researchers and scientists racing for a vaccine.
And changing their opinions
so many
on a
of
daily
you,
basis.
As Hemingway wrote, being strong in all the broken places. I know it's been hard. I truly know. As I've told you before, I carry a card in my pocket with the number of Americans who have died from COVID to date. It's on the back of my schedule.
Because I'd forget otherwise.
As of now, total deaths in America, 527,726. That's more deaths than in World War I, World War II, the Vietnam War,
incredibly,
and 9/11 combined.
Almost nobody's died from flu
husbands,
this year.
Wives, sons and daughters,
not a single death by flu.
grandparents,
He's
friends,
cured the
neighbors,
flu.
young and old.
Amazing.
How many of those were nursing home deaths from?
He also cured a great number of car wrecks as well.
Yeah. How many of those were nursing home deaths from New York and Michigan and Pennsylvania?
15,000 in New York alone.
26,000 in Michigan.
Cruel fate of accident or other disease.
Are we blaming those on the disease?
They too leave behind loved ones who are hurting badly. You know, you've often heard me say before, I talk about the longest walk any parent can make is up a short flight of stairs to his child's bedroom to say, I'm sorry, but I lost my job. Can't be here anymore.
Who took their jobs, Joe?
My dad told me.
How many oil people had to do that to their kids the first week of the Biden?
So many of you had to make that same walk this past year. You lost your job.
Because of people like you. And it was unnecessary.
Facing eviction.
You picked and choose different people to lose their jobs.
Loss of control.
On completely arbitrary basis.
Maybe worst of all, a loss of hope. Watching a generation of children who may be set back up to a year or more.
Because of who?
They've not been in school because of their loss of learning.
Not Florida, not Texas.
It's the details of life that matter the most. And we miss those details. The big details and the small moments.
Like it was the Democrats' fault. Big detail.
Birthdays, graduations. All the things that needed to happen.
Dire commentary on every single word.
The family reunions. The Sunday night rituals.
That's what
it's all has exacted a terrible cost on the psyche of so many of us. For we are fundamentally a people who want to be with others, to talk, to laugh, to hug, to hold one another.
Close.
This virus has kept us apart. Grandparents haven't seen their children or grandchildren.
Yeah, because they're dead. Who killed them?
Kids haven't seen their friends. To do that always filled us with joy have become things we couldn't do and broke our hearts. Too often, we've turned against one another. A mask, the easiest thing to do to save lives. Sometimes it divides us.
Why isn't he wearing one? He's supposed to be wearing one on federal property. He's on federal property
instead
right now.
of working with each other.
He wrote that law.
Vicious hate crimes against Asian Americans who've been attacked, harassed, blamed, and scapegoated. At this very moment, so many of them, our fellow Americans, they're on the front lines of this pandemic trying to save lives. And still, they're forced to live in fear for their lives just walking down streets in America. It's wrong, it's un-American, and it must stop. Look, we know what we need to do to beat this virus. Tell the truth. Follow the scientists and the science. Work together. Put trust and faith in our government to fulfill its most important function, which is protect.
Yeah, that was. I'm gonna pause this for a second. That was interesting. Follow the scientists, and then he caught himself. Follow the science. Oof.
Yeah.
It's like follow the priests. Don't follow the Bible. Follow the priests.
Yeah, but like Fauci, for instance, his opinion on face masks has changed at least 5 times.
Well, it wasn't. It was, and it was only changed 4 times, but he stopped lying one of the times. Like he was intentionally lying about face masks for a while.
Yes.
Who's to say he's not still intentionally lying about them?
The American people, no function more important. We need to remember the government isn't some foreign force in a distant capital. No, it's us, all of us.
No,
we the people. For you and I,
if it was we the people,
that America thrives when we give our hearts, when we turn our hands to common purpose. And right now, my friends, we're doing just that. And I have to say, as your president, I'm grateful to you. Last summer, I was in Philadelphia and I met a small business owner, a woman. I asked her, I said, what do you need most? I'll never forget what she said to me. She said, looking me in the eye, she said, I just want the truth. The truth. Just tell me the truth.
You can't handle the truth. Wait.
My fellow Americans, you're owed nothing less than the truth. And for all of you asking, when things will get back to normal. Here is the truth. The only way to get our lives back, to get our economy back on track, is to beat the virus. You've been hearing me say that for while I was running and the last
COVID
50 days
infections
as
are
president.
down 90%.
This is one of the most complex operations we've ever undertaken as a nation in a long time. That's why I'm using every power I have as President of the United States to put us on a war footing to get the job done. Sounds like hyperbole, but I mean it, a war footing. And thank God we're making some real progress.
You're just continuing it.
Yeah, Trump's the one who
My
declared
first
it
full
the
day in
war on
office,
COVID.
I outlined for you a comprehensive strategy to beat this pandemic.
Wear a mask.
We've spent every day since attempting to carry it out. 2 months ago,
That was
this country
strategy.
didn't have nearly enough vaccine supply to vaccinate
Actually,
all or
Trump's
ever
strategy
near
for
all
a
of
mask.
the
His
American
strategy was wear
public.
2 masks.
But soon we will. We've been working with vaccine manufacturers, Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson,
You continued it.
to manufacture and purchase hundreds of millions of doses of these 3 safe, effective vaccines.
The ones, every
And
dose
now,
given out was
At the
purchased by
direction
Trump
and with the
so far.
assistance of my administration, Johnson & Johnson is working together with a competitor, Merck, to speed up and increase the capacity to manufacture new Johnson & Johnson vaccine, which is one shot. In fact, just yesterday, I announced, and I met with the CEOs of both companies, I announced our plan to buy an additional 100 million doses of Johnson & Johnson vaccines. These two companies, competitors, have come together for the good of the nation, and they should be applauded for it. It's truly a national effort, just like we saw during World War II. Now, because of all the work we've done, we'll have enough vaccine supply for all adults in America by the end of May. That's months ahead of schedule. And we're mobilizing thousands of vaccinators to put the vaccine in one's arm, calling active duty military, FEMA, retired doctors and nurses, administrators, and those to administer the shots. And we've been creating more places to get the shots. We've made it possible for you to get a vaccine at nearly any one of 10,000 pharmacies across the country, just like you get your flu shot. We're also working with governors and mayors in red states and blue states to set up and support nearly 600 federally supported vaccination centers that administers hundreds of thousands of shots per day. You can drive up to a stadium or a large parking lot, get your shot, never leave your car, and drive home in less than an hour. We've been sending vaccines to hundreds of community health centers all across America, located in underserved areas. And we've been deploying, and we will deploy more, mobile vehicles and pop-up clinics to meet you where you live so those who are least able to get the vaccine are able to get it. We continue to work on making at-home testing available. And we've been focused on serving people in the hardest hit communities of this pandemic, Black, Latino, Native American, and rural communities. So what does all this add up to?
I think white people got hit pretty hard, too.
When I took office 50 days ago, only 8% of the Americans, after months, only 8% of those over the age of 65 had gotten their first vaccination. Today, that number is 65%. Just 14% of Americans
That
over
was
the age of 75,
the timeline.
50 years ago had gotten their
how
first shot.
timelines work.
Today, that number is well over 70%. With new guidance from the Centers for Disease
When Dire Wolf started out this year, he had only done one show. But since I've arrived, 3 months later, we've done dozens and dozens of shows. I think, as we all know, it's me who has created this plentiful number of shows. It's not that that's just how time works. It's like, I feel like your employer, like, I don't know, like somebody like being hired into management at the end of the year, and it's like, when I started out, you had only been getting paid, like, you only got $5 for the full year. Like, now, 6 months later, since I've taken over, we've paid you out over $5,000. Like, yeah, that's how the paychecks work. Like, that's how vaccines work. It's just an incrementing number. The rate is what's important.
and the ramp up was already pre-planned. So yes,
how many people died during that time, Biden? It's easy. It's easier to vaccinate the old people too when you got your Democrat governors killing them as fast as you're vaccinating.
There's fewer of them to vaccinate.
Exactly.
Way more efficient.
Exactly.
Yeah, the plan that Trump had already put in place was ramping up. So there was more vaccines on week 2 than there was week 1, and more week 3 than there was week 2. There more were available as time went on. So yes, I mean, on every single dose given out so far, it was a dose that was purchased by Trump, not Biden.
Yes. Yeah, it will not be until the end of April before Joe Biden purchased vaccines start going into arms. So, I mean, Jesus Christ.
And also, is he saying that every death since he's president is now on his shoulders, that he caused those people to die? Because that's what they're doing to Trump. Every person who died while he was president, it wasn't his fault in any way, shape, or form. They were blaming him for it. So are we blaming Biden now?
Yes. Thank you, Voracious Blackson, for the ice cream. Much appreciated. It's really interesting hearing what Joe thinks he was doing for the last 45 days.
Yeah. He's talking to. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, I'm learning a lot.
Prevention, the CDC, that came out on Monday, it means simply this: millions and millions of grandparents who went months without being able to hug their grandkids can now do so. And the more people are fully vaccinated, the CD will continue to provide additional guidance on what you can do in the workplace, places of worship with your friends, as well as travel. When I came into office, you may recall, I set a goal that many of you said was kind of way over the top. I said I intended to get 100 million shots in people's arms in my first 100 days in office.
We went over this. The first day in office, the day prior, Trump, was it January 19th, Trump had vaccinated approximately 1.1 million people. Vaccinating 100 million people at 100 days is a lower rate than what Trump was doing. Now, I'm sure what he's about to do is start talking about how they've gotten that number up to 2 million. We'll be covering a story on Saturday. Apparently, the CDC is fudging those numbers. They're a little inflated. But we'll find out more about that on Saturday.
Tonight, I can say we're not only going to meet that goal, we're going to beat that goal. Because we're actually on track to reach this goal of 100 million shots in arms on my 60th day in office. No other country in the world has done this. None. Now, I want to talk.
Well, I should fucking hope so. We're the only country that came up with a vaccine. Should fucking hope so. Is Joe Biden saying America first?
There was another vaccine, but still, we had both vaccine and the
British had it. They don't really count, but yeah. I imagine that they stole it from us.
Talk about the next steps we're thinking about. First, tonight, I'm announcing that I will direct all states, tribes, and territories to make all adults, people 18 and over, eligible to be vaccinated no later than May 1. Let me say that again. All adult Americans will be eligible to get a vaccine no later than May 1. That's much earlier than expected. Let me be clear. That doesn't mean everyone's going to have that shot immediately, but it means you'll be able to get in line beginning May 1. Every adult will be eligible to get their shot. And to do this, we're going to go from 1 million shots a day that I promised in December, before I was sworn in, to beating our current pace of 2 million shots a day, outpacing the rest of the world. Secondly,
beating.
At the time when every adult is eligible in May, we will launch, with our partners, new tools to make it easier for you to find the vaccine and where to get the shot, including a new website that will help you first find the place to get vaccinated and the one nearest you. No more searching day and night for an appointment for you and your loved ones.
What?
Thirdly,
Google already has that. You just
with the passage of the American Rescue Plan,
go to Kroger's.
And I thank again the House and Senate for passing it.
Jesus Christ.
And my announcement last month of a plan to vaccinate teachers and school staff.
The healthcare website.
What's that? Yeah, right. No, isn't it so great that you can just like solve these problems that don't exist, like, and then take credit for it? Like, oh, like I'm going to solve the problem of getting 1 million shots in people's arms. Like, oh, well, like they're already doing that. Yes, I know. I made that. I'm going to take credit for it. Like, oh, like, the problem of people being, because that's actually funny because Joe Biden must think that black people don't know how to use Google because they were just talking about that. Now it's like, well, we're, because black people don't know how to use Google, we're going to make a website for them to figure it out better. No, like you go, like I can't drive around town without seeing CVS and Walgreens having advertisements everywhere about, when you can get the vaccine, how to go on their website. Google will tell you where you can go do stuff. I mean, the idea that there's people who do not know where to get a vaccine is awful.
It's absurd.
Now it may be true that people are frantically searching and driving around trying to find one because they live in places like New York, which will fine healthcare workers $80,000 if they give vaccines in the wrong order of age and race priorities. That's what Cuomo did in New York. It wasn't only, and they've thrown away hundreds of thousands of doses because, well, the wrong colored skin person was there, or somebody who was too rich, or they were too white, or they were too young, or whatever, and they weren't allowed to give them the vaccine, and they had to throw it away instead. Whereas other states like Florida said, if we, this is the priority, if you are this kind of person, you can hop in line. But if there's nobody else in line and you're an 18-year-old white guy, you can go for it. And they got ripped up and down by the Democrats for doing that, but they haven't wasted a single dose. Meanwhile, the Democrats have. There was even talk about people doing vaccine tourism from New York going to Florida trying to find vaccines. So this whole thing of people searching day and night for vaccines, that is an exclusively blue
Democrat
city problem. Yes.
Yeah, also I'll point out that healthcare.gov cost $6 million and didn't work, so I'm sure a government-created website will be super expensive and probably won't work either.
Yes. Jesus.
Including bus drivers. We can accelerate massive nationwide effort to reopen our schools safely and meet my goal that I stated at the same time, about 100 million shots, of opening a majority of K through 8 schools in my first 100 days in office. This is going to be the #1 priority of my new Secretary of Education, Miguel
You can do
Cardona.
it right now if you wanted to. You could have done
Fourth,
it 45 days ago.
in the coming weeks, we will issue further guidance on what you can and cannot do once fully vaccinated to lessen the confusion, to keep people safe, and encourage more people to get vaccinated. And finally, fifth, and maybe most importantly, I promise I will do everything in my power. I will not relent until we beat this virus. But I need you, the American people. I need you. I need every American to do their part. And that's not hyperbole. I need you. I need you to get vaccinated when it's your turn and when you can find an opportunity. And to help your family, your friends, your neighbors get vaccinated as well. Because here's the point. If we do all this, if we do our part, if we do this together, by July the 4th, there's a good chance you, your families and friends will be able to get together in your backyard or in your neighborhood and have a cookout and a barbecue and celebrate Independence Day.
I could do that right now.
That doesn't mean large events.
and you too could get shot by a mob of BLM supporters trying to set up an autonomous zone.
We can do those things right now. The only thing that's preventing some people is government.
Yes. Well, the government will be the big hero when they get out of the way, right?
Yes.
Is the well, this is the Democrat way of doing things. You take stuff away and then you parcel it back out in little pieces, and then now they're the big hero giving you things, but they're only giving you the things that they took away.
Right.
Pull together, but it does mean small groups will be able to get together. After this long, hard year, that will make this Independence Day something truly special, where we not only mark our independence as a nation, but we begin to mark our independence from this virus. But to get there, we can't let our guard down. This fight is far from from over, as I told the woman in Pennsylvania. I'll tell
Far
you the
from
truth.
Order.
July 4th with your loved ones is the goal. But a lot can happen. Conditions can change. The scientists have made clear that things may get worse again as new variants of the virus spread. We've got work to do to ensure that everyone has confidence in the safety and effectiveness of all 3 vaccines.
Who questioned the
So my
safety
message
and
to you is
effectiveness
this.
of the vaccine? I forget.
Listen to Dr. Fauci,
I think
one of the most
that was
distinguished and
the
trusted
Democrat.
voices in
And
the
Kamala
world.
Harris.
And Biden.
He's assured us the vaccines are safe. They underwent rigorous scientific review. I know they're safe. Vice President Harris and I know they're safe. That's why we got the vaccine publicly in front of cameras, so for the world to see, so you could see us do it. The First Lady and the Second Gentleman also got vaccinated. Talk to your family, friends, your neighbors, the people you know best who've gotten the vaccine.
Oh, that guy is
We
much
need
further down the
everyone
list
to
than the
get
second
vaccinated.
gentleman, Kamala Harris.
We need everyone to keep washing their hands.
He's more like the 5th
Stay
or 6th.
socially distanced, and keep wearing the mask as recommended by the CDC. Because even if we devote every resource we have, beating this virus and getting back to normal depends on national unity. And national unity isn't just how politics and politicians vote in Washington, or what the loudest voices say on cable or online. Unity is what we do together as fellow Americans. Because if we don't stay vigilant and the conditions change, then we may have to reinstate restrictions to get back on track. And please, we don't want to do that again. We've
That
made
sounds like a
so
threat.
much progress. This is not the time to let up. Just as we were emerging from a dark winter into a hopeful spring and summer is not the time to not stick with the rules. I'll close
And
with
if you
this.
don't, we're going to
We've
destroy
lost
your
so much over
lives
the last year.
and your businesses.
We've
Based on
lost
what I'm hearing.
family and friends. We've lost businesses and dreams we spent years building.
They weren't lost. They were
We've
taken.
lost time with
By
each
you.
other.
And BLM.
Democrats.
And our children have lost so much time with their friends, time with their schools. No graduation ceremonies this spring. No graduations from college, high school, moving up ceremonies. You know, and there's something else we lost. We lost faith in
Gun
whether
rights,
our
freedom of
government
speech.
and our democracy can deliver on really hard things for the American people. But as I stand here tonight, we're proving once again something I've said time and time again, to probably tired of hearing me say it. I say it to foreign leaders and domestic alike. It's never, ever a good bet to bet against the American people. America is coming back. The development, manufacture, and distribution of vaccines in record time is a true miracle of science. It's one of the most extraordinary achievements any country has ever accomplished. And we also just saw the Perseverance rover land on Mars. Stunning images of our dreams that are now a reality.
Launched by Trump.
Another example of the
Everything we've done,
extraordinary
we've done in
American
spite of
ingenuity,
people
commitment,
like
and
you,
belief
Joe
in
Biden.
science and one another. And today, I signed into law the American Rescue Plan, an historic piece of legislation that delivers
And
immediate
how
relief
expensive
to
and
millions of
wasteful it
people.
was. And how most of it did not go towards the people you
$1,400
helped
in direct
victimize.
rescue checks, payments. That means a typical family of 4 earning about $110,000 will get checks for $5,600 deposited if they have direct deposit, or in a check, a treasury check.
But not the 2,000
It
per person
extends
you
unemployment
promised.
benefits. It helps small businesses. It lowers health care premiums for many. It provides food and nutrition, keeps families in their homes.
It
And
still
will
doesn't
cut
cover
child
how much
poverty
people
in this country
lost
in
because
half,
of Democrats.
according to the experts. And it funds all the steps I've just described to beat the virus and create millions of jobs. In the coming weeks and months, I'll be traveling along with the First Lady, the Vice President, the Second Gentleman, members of my cabinet, to speak directly to you, to tell you the truth about how the American Rescue Plan meets the moment. And if it fails at any pace, I will acknowledge that it failed, but it will not. About how after long, dark years, one whole year, there is hope and light of better days ahead. If we all do our part, this country will be vaccinated soon. Our economy will be on the mend. Our kids will be back in school. And we'll have proven once again that this country can do anything, hard things, big things, important things.
Girthy.
Over a year ago,
Dire things.
no one could have imagined what we were about to go through. But now, we're coming through it. And it's a shared experience that binds us together as a nation. We are bound together by the loss and the pain of the days that have gone by. We're also bound together by the hope and the possibilities of the days in front of us.
Pause it.
That's some like really intense platitudes going on here.
I can't take him seriously when he talks about unity and how us suffering together. No, fuck off. You and your vice president and your party have supported the most calls for violence and literal acts of violence against your political rivals. You haven't been supporting any form of unity. You've been supporting the silencing of your guys' critics and the expulsion of your political rivals in Congress. You have not called for or fostered any kind of unity, and words to those effect fall as stale, because we know they're not true on what you have said that people who are like us shouldn't have a right to speak. That we should be re-educated. The people on your side have said we should be removed from the country. No, you don't want unity, and we have not suffered evenly. The people who have had their stores and homes destroyed by BLM that you supported, they actually suffered. The people who have had their businesses destroyed by your shutdowns and your lockdowns, the people who've been unable to feed their families, those people suffered while you and your elites have not suffered. You've been completely insulated from your policies. So don't give me this bullshit about there being equal suffering or unity. No, you have not fostered unity, and no, you have not suffered the way like the people who you have made suffer. And the $2,000 that you promised wouldn't have been enough to cover the suffering that you helped cause, or Democrats on your side have caused. But it's even more of an insult, even though that wouldn't have covered it, that you even reneged on that offer. You're giving even less than you promised. And most of the money in that bill is going towards your special interests.
Yeah, 91% of the dollars in the COVID bill do not have anything to do with COVID.
Yeah, it's going towards people who support the Democrat Party. It's payoffs for their support. It is not money going towards the people who actually suffered from their policies.
My fervent prayer for our country is that after all we've been through, we'll come together as one people, one nation.
Is that before or after my business gets burned down?
I believe we can, and we will. We're seizing this moment, and history, I believe, will record. We faced and overcame one of the toughest and darkest periods in this nation's history, darkest we've ever known. I promise you, we'll come out stronger, with a renewed faith in ourselves, a renewed commitment to one another, to our communities, and to our country. This is the United States of America, and there's nothing, from the bottom of my heart I believe this, there's nothing we can't do when we do it together. So God bless you all, and please, God, give solace to all those people who lost someone, and may God protect our troops. Thank you for taking the time to listen. I look forward to seeing you.
God wouldn't have to work so hard if you would stop putting us in danger.
Big headlines from President Joe Biden as he announces an aggressive new push to vaccinate.
Yeah, about 30 minutes.
So that's pretty pathetic. That's his biggest public live address is about 30 minutes, because he doesn't have the energy to stay up for an hour and a half or like Trump 4 hours before, where he could just keep on talking about policy and his goals for 4 hours and receiving questions. No, Biden can barely do 30 minutes. He was still tripping over himself and barely making any sense on a obviously practiced, written down speech. He still
it's just a lot of platitudes, right? Like, it was just a lot of, just political speak. Come together, unity, fight hard, tough, dark winners.
The words don't mean anything. The actions matter, and the action that mattered here is 91% of those 1.9 trillion not being for COVID.
I mean, that was essentially it was like half spoken word poetry, just making up words, and then the other half was just taking credit for things that he didn't do. Like, he was not involved in the ramp up to get the vaccines up to 1 million.
Why would you do that?
Slowpoke gave us $2. Says, lost 2 ants. I still won't touch the vax. Not by Trump or his decrepit somethings. No, I mean, Biden just sat there and took credit for all the stuff that Trump did to get the vaccine going through. I was hearing it today that there's reports coming out now from the CDC that are kind of outlining what went well, what went bad during Operation, Overdrive or Warp Speed, Operation Warp Speed, which was Trump's plan to blast through the regular red tape and slowness to develop vaccines on a normal pace, which is usually anywhere from 6 to 10 years, more sometimes. And Trump created Operation Warp Speed to just make sure that all happened as quickly and fluidly as possible. And there's a lot of information coming out now as to regulatory hurdles that Trump, as the executive, he just was able to strike pens through them or get funding approved or move people around that needed to be. And we're starting to see just how hard Trump was working in the background, the Trump administration, getting us so that we could get that vaccine before he left office in 2020. When he said we're going to have a vaccine in 2020, Democrats said he was insane, that we weren't going to have one until 2022. That was their hope and prayer, and then Trump had one before the election. Then
we had a doctor who actually tried to was effective in slowing up the vaccine coming out so that it would be a no October surprise for Trump.
Yeah. We had, as Joe Biden said himself, we've vaccinated 65% of elders 65 and older, and all of those vaccines were purchased by Trump. All of that vaccination effort is either being figured out at the state level or the Trump administration was the one help planning that. This idea that there was no plan. Joe Biden comes into office, they're already giving out over 1 million vaccines a day, and Joe Biden says, well, there's no plan. And it's like, well, yeah, but there is a plan because you guys are following the exact same plan that there is. There's no vaccines. Like, yes, there is vaccines. They were on order.
It's kind of like this. Trump built the train, built the tracks, got the train moving, had it a mile down the track, and then handed it over to Biden. Biden's just sitting there like, yeah, keep going forward. Yes.
Yeah.
He didn't do anything.
No, I mean, it's like I'm sure you have your guys like do tasks, right? And so like it'd be like if you got in the morning and it's like, man, I can't believe you guys have only done one task. It's 8 a.m. Like, what's going on here? And then at the end of the day, at 5 p.m., you're like, man, since I got here in the morning, you guys have completed 100 tasks. Like, that's all on me. Like, I did that. It's like, no, that's just how the fucking day works. Like, you do stuff. They increment. They count up. Like, that's how time and progression of sequence of events works. I don't understand what's so magical about that. I mean, if there was... Again, I think it's magical that Trump was able to get this stuff going in the first place, and got it up to 1 million per day. I mean, that was pretty quick. That was a pretty quick ramp up. I think he had about 17 days where he was ramping it up from a few hundred all the way up to over 1 million per day. I'd say that's pretty impressive.
But it also begs the question of why were there so many regulatory hurdles in the first place that make it so hard to produce a vaccine when it's needed very badly. And I'd say it's because of a runaway bureaucracy under presidents like Obama and Vice President Biden, because they let those industries, the bureaucracies grow to insane levels and create all these hurdles to make it nearly impossible to produce a vaccine quickly.
Well, the other reason why is that you have to try a lot of different vaccines to find one that works. And I remember describing it at the time. I was very impressed with the concept of Operation Warp Speed. As a wealthy Western civilization, I thought that it was a really brilliant idea to just throw as much money and effort as we possibly could into this, because the way it would normally work is you got vaccine company or drug companies. They're not going to make 1,000 different variants of a vaccine just to see which one works, because they're all very expensive to try out. So they'll try one. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, much more likely they'll just move on to the next one. That's why it's very slow going. They're just doing one at a time. What Trump did with Operation Warp Speed was he created a system and a pool of money that would allow the drug companies to, while they were in process of testing different vaccine variants, they were also producing it. And the whole idea was, well, if while you're testing this one, if it doesn't work, I guess we'll just throw away what we made. But if this one does work, we'll immediately have a whole bunch of vaccine that we can hand out. And that is an example of something that I think is a good example of waste. We were able to throw a lot of wasted effort, with the hope of finding that one lottery ticket. I described each vaccine attempt as a lottery ticket, and Trump said, well, we're not going to just buy one lottery ticket at a time. I'm just going to break the bank and buy every lottery ticket that we can. And he found a couple. And that was fantastic. On the contrary, you've got someone like Joe Biden and the current Democrat Congress, where their idea of buying lottery tickets is to shovel as much money into their interest groups and their buddies and their allies as possible. And that lottery ticket is that they can maintain their power through their control over the media and big tech and the regulatory and laws that govern voting and all that stuff. That's the lottery tickets they're buying with your money. The lottery tickets Trump was buying with your money was a vaccine that is going to is already allowing us to go back to normal.
Right. So this is a pathetic excuse for a speech. It was full of lots of holes, and he's trying to get credit for undoing the pain he's causing. He's also trying to take credit for a whole lot of things he didn't do, and the people in his administration did not do.
This was a really incredible kind of time warp. Like, watching that, if you just kind of let him speak for a little bit and just kind of laid back for a second, it really felt like we were back in May 2020, right? So this felt like a speech that was back in the thick of things. That is really not the correct direction to be going. Joe Biden's still talking about, even after everybody's vaccinated in July, still in limited group settings. They've got Fauci and the CDC talking about, even after you're vaccinated, if you're having an interaction with another person that's vaccinated, you should still be practicing social distancing and mask wearing. And that's just never going to fly. The vaccine, they're finding out now that there's more and more people vaccinated. The estimated numbers are getting more refined. The Pfizer vaccine is up at 96% effective now. If you get vaccinated 30 days later, and then as you get your second dose, you're good to go. That's the science. That is the science. Not what the scientists are saying. That's what the science shows. And this idea that we're back in time, that everything is just gloom and doom, and we got to wear masks and 100 days of slow spread and all this stuff. It's just not, optically, it's not good. I don't know. Maybe the Democrat voter is really into this crisis porn, which is what this was. But I can tell you a lot of people aren't. A lot of people are kind of tired of this. They aren't seeing this. They're seeing, their old folks die because, Democrat governors are killing them. But other than that, they're really just seeing job loss, struggling economy, food inflation. They're not real happy with the masks. Or you just have people who are just ignoring it. And I just don't see how continuing the dark winter speech, I just don't see how that's a winning strategy. But I'm wrong. Like I guess what I'm really saying is it does work. He got 80 million some votes. I personally don't understand it. Maybe that's a failing in me. I guess that works with a bunch of people. But I cannot wrap my head around what the thought process is in that.
Even with the number of vaccinations so far and the projection of where we're going in the short term, there is no reason that they would legitimately have to reinstate a lockdown. So many people have already been vaccinated or already have recovered from and are immune to the disease, right? So the fact that he's threatening it, first off, I don't think he has the power to do a federal lockdown because the red states, they already know from what limited lockdowns they did that there is no tolerance for it, and people are very angry about it, and they will be voted out of office. And I think that there might be a revolt in Democrat cities. There already is at the edge of a revolt in California and some other Democrat states over their lockdowns. They already had armed protests in some states over these lockdowns. So I don't think that he politically would want to do lockdowns. Though again, I think it's a idle threat, but I find it pretty distasteful for the president to be threatening to cause even more harm than they already have if people refuse to get vaccinated.
Yeah,
and that would definitely, to me, seem like a threat.
Yeah. Very strange speech. I guess I don't know what I expected, but I guess I'd be interested to see what else he's got to say on other stuff. I think he's gotten away with a lot of not talking to the press, not in an engaging fashion.
I would have loved to know have a speech about other topics, as this really was the least important to me.
Yeah. And that is interesting, right? There's so many other things going on that are very important to the world right now, and very important to the country. And I think a lot of people have moved on from the virus. Like I said, the CDC numbers, the Johns Hopkins numbers, infections are down over 90% from the beginning of the year. The vaccine worked. Herd immunity worked. Social distancing, it did work. Joe Biden can talk about the masks not working all he wants, but I mean, something's bringing the numbers down.
In comparison, though, we have immigration up over 90%.
Immigration's up maybe, I think, this is not an exaggeration. Immigration may well be up about 9,000%. We'll have to break out. It's somewhere between 900 and 9,000%. You're talking about going from some areas of the country were experiencing 60 border crossings per day, now up to 6,000 border crossings per day.
Yes. I was just trying to make a joke off of the numbers that you said. So, in context with the reduced threat of COVID that he chose to talk about, he didn't talk about the extreme threat of illegal immigration that apparently his administration sees as a good thing, and it's a sign of hope. And didn't talk about the ramping up of military operations in the Middle East. He's not talking about a lot of very important things that are going on right now, like the protection of our gun rights. About I really, this is the least important thing to me. What China? We talk about China.
Some people said the virus, it comes from China. I wouldn't say that, but people say that. Actually, I would say that. Because it came from China. It's the China virus.
Okay. Anything else?
No, that's really all I got. I'm just kind of, meh, as was the speech, as is the presidency. We got a lot of stuff to, I would still like to see a State of the Union, a proper address to the joint Congress.
Yeah, this does not count.
Yeah, so we'll see about that. Yeah, I think you also, I noticed, I thought he started off very strong. I was very not surprised. So Hannity was talking about this last night, as was, I think, the mistake of conservative commentary all last year was talking about how Joe Biden was just going to turn into a puddle at the debates. They can pump him up with enough drugs to keep him going for an hour and a half. That was a big mistake because the bar was set so low that Joe Biden merely had to not die during the debates, and he looked amazing as compared to what the expectations were. In this one, Hannity had warned last night that we should, he expects that this will be not very much stumbling over his words, not very much slurring. He'll probably be, good cadence, reading off a teleprompter. Trump did a fantastic job reading off teleprompter. Joe Biden does just fine, too, as he should be probably used to that by now. But I did notice the strength in his voice was higher at the beginning, and he did start waning off towards the end. That is, over the course of a half hour, a notable difference in energy and tempo at the end of 30 minutes versus the beginning of 30 minutes. Whereas Trump's got more energy at the end of 5 hours than he does at the first. So
yes,
he just loves it. He thrives on it. And Obama did too. Most other previous presidents have done very well at maintaining consistent energy levels, but Joe Biden is a very unique president in his age. He is not what he used to be.
Yep. Well, we have a lot of news to cover on this upcoming Saturday, which is not too far away. So we look forward to seeing you guys then, and we might have more to talk about this topic. But for now, I think it's up to it. Oh, thank you for the ice cream, Voracious Blackston. I very much appreciate it. But thank you guys for coming out and watching this show. We're gonna be ending here, unless you got anything else there, Fox.
That's all I got.
All right, Wolf out.
Jeez.